Hello there, young adventurer. Today, I have an incredible story to tell you. A story that begins more than 20 years ago, out at sea. Ready to come aboard? In February 1997, a huge cargo ship called the Tokyo Express was crossing rough waters near the English coast, loaded with tons of goods. But a storm so violent struck it that a giant wave tipped the cargo ship from one side to the other, so forcefully that 62 containers were thrown into the ocean. Guess what was inside one of them? Almost 5 million Lego pieces. I'm not even kidding. Lego pieces shaped like octopuses, sharks, seaweed, and even dragons. Since that day, thousands of these Legos have been traveling across the oceans. They have been found washed up on beaches in England, France, Belgium, and even in other countries, carried by ocean currents over thousands of kilometers. Just imagine, the next time you go to the beach, finding a plastic octopus or a little dragon washed up on the sand, knowing they've spent more than 2 decades drifting in the sea. Crazy, right? And what's even more incredible is that pieces are still turning up on beaches today, almost 30 years later. This strange and, in a way, amusing story has inspired a community of enthusiasts. That's how the Lego Lost at Sea project was born, bringing together beachcombers who collect these pieces in an attempt to reconstruct this Lego treasure. But behind this treasure hunt lies a much more serious problem. Because if these Lego pieces keep appearing, it's because plastics, like Lego, don't break down easily in the sea. These toys, which could have been fun for children, turn into polluting waste that remains in the water for decades, or even centuries. And this story is not a unique case. Other containers fall into the ocean every year. Sometimes, some even contain tons of plastic pellets, which are the raw material used to make all kinds of objects. When a container falls into the water, tons of these pellets end up in the ocean, scattered by the waves and currents. These pellets, just like Legos, do not decompose and pose a very serious threat to marine life. They were even given the sadly poetic name of mermaid tears. Unfortunately, this plastic waste is carried by ocean currents and eventually accumulates in certain areas, forming what are known as plastic continents. These aren't real continents, but massive clusters of floating plastic waste that stretch over thousands of square kilometers. The largest one, in the Pacific Ocean, covers an estimated area of 1.6 million square kilometers, more than 3 times the size of France. And it weighs thousands of tons, equivalent to several hundred airplanes combined. Unlike dead leaves or branches, plastic does not decompose in water in the same way. It only breaks down into smaller pieces called microplastics. These tiny particles mix with the water, the sand, and even with marine animals. Fish, birds, and many other animals mistake these microplastics for food and swallow them. Even worse, by eating these marine animals, we also ingest these microplastics. That's right, plastic is everywhere, even on our plates. And plastic causes even more problems for marine animals. For example, turtles mistake plastic bags for jellyfish and can choke on them when they try to eat them. Other animals end up trapped in pieces of abandoned nets or ropes. These pieces of waste become deadly traps simply because they do not break down in nature. So, you see, the story of Lego washing up on beaches is amusing, but it hides a much more troubling reality. Millions of tons of plastic end up in our oceans every year, where they float, break down into microplastics, and threaten marine animals as well as our own health. But fortunately, there are solutions. Each of us can do something to reduce this plastic pollution. First, use less plastic in daily life, for example by choosing sustainable alternatives like glass, metal, or wood whenever possible. What's essential is to avoid disposable items at all costs and to favor washable and durable versions. If you don't know where to start, don't worry. We'll talk more about it in other videos. Second, recycle and reuse as much as possible. That means doing everything you can so that plastic items you can't do without can have many second lives instead of being sent for incineration or worse. And for that, we first need to learn how to properly dispose of our waste, because every piece of trash that ends up in a bin and not in nature is a victory for our oceans and forests. Obviously, as much as possible, we should also practice sorting our waste to allow for recycling rather than incineration. Together, we can protect our seas and prevent more objects from drifting in the oceans for decades. If, like me, you are now convinced of the need to take action, I'll see you in your activity book to continue this mission, and of course, in the next video as well. See you soon, young adventurer, and always remember that every action counts when it comes to preserving our beautiful planet.